Celestial Golf is an upcoming golf game set in the solar system where you hit your ball on an orbital trajectory all the way around the solar system, bouncing from one planet to another on a wild ride across the stars. Today, I'm just going to play through a couple of levels of the game to give you a bit more of a long-form version of what you might have seen in the trailer on the Steam page. So let's jump into the game. I'm going to skip ahead a couple of levels and just play some of the interesting levels that show some of the orbital mechanics. So it's important to note that the game is currently in development. So the graphics that you see, the user interface is all temporary. I'm working on upgrading the game, but I want to give you a bit of an idea of what the game plays like right now. So let's get into it. Okay, so we can aim the ball, aim the shot using the arrow, and we can kind of see the trajectory that we're planning to hit when we hit the ball. If we just hit it, then it will go up and down and just bounce along the moon's surface. But to get into orbit, we need to get a little higher. So let's just pause the game. The game's designed to be paused so you can adjust things whenever you like. You don't need to do this in real time. And you can also adjust the power of the shot. So let's zoom out a little bit. Once we zoom out far enough, then the camera orients itself to the stars instead of to the surface. And you can see here the apoapsis, the highest point of the orbit. We need to get that above 10,000 kilometers or 10 megameters. So this will do nicely. Let's just hit the ball, wait for it to get up to the apoapsis, and we'll just pause here. Now in Celestial Golf, you are allowed to hit the ball when it's in space. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to get into orbit. So here we have another shot lined up, and you can see that if I adjust the angle and the power, I can see the new trajectory of the ball. So if I have a lower power, then it will just go a little bit further around the moon. If I increase the power enough, it starts to go into a circular orbit. So let's try and just adjust it just enough to get that orbit nice and circular. And if we hit it here, now the ball is in orbit. So it's essentially being gravitationally attracted inwards by the moon, but it's moving fast enough that it's never actually going to impact the moon. It's just going to go all the way around. It's essentially falling forever. That's what an orbit is. And so we can just leave this here forever. I like to hit just tab to disable the shot plan when I'm not planning to do a shot. And we can just wait for the ball to travel around on a complete orbit. And now that's gone around all the way, we can get ourselves back down. So to do that, we aim backwards in what's called a retrograde shot. If I just pause the game, then it sort of helps the system to calculate where it's going to land. And we're just going to hit it about there so that it impacts close to the flag. There we go, just bouncing along a little bit and it's in. So that's basic orbits in Celestial Golf. This level is where we introduce the Earth. So here we have the ball starting on the tee on the moon, and we have to get it to the flag on the Earth. So to do that, we're going to start off with the same approach that we took before. We're just going to get it up into orbit. So we get to an apoapsis and pause, and now adjust the shot to a nice circular orbit. So we're in orbit around the moon, but now we need to get into an escape trajectory. So you can see from the trajectory display that we're projecting, if we were to hit the ball now, we're projecting a moon escape, and then off it goes. I think that might actually be a bit too much. It's got an Earth escape as well. These wiggly, wavy lines are, they are correct. What we're seeing essentially is the planned trajectory of the ball, but from the reference frame of the moon. If that's a bit hard to understand, you just have to think, well, once it escapes from the moon, it's going to go off on some other trajectory, and we'll see once we get there how the trajectory system corrects for that. So let's just hit the ball with just enough power to get to a moon escape. Okay. So we're following along this trajectory, and once we hit the moon escape, you'll see the trajectory will change to a completely different shape. That means that we've escaped the moon's gravity, and we're now in orbit around the Earth, basically. There we go. And you can see it's actually in basically a, well, I'll pause the game here. But what basically happened there is we were seeing the trajectory drawn from the moon reference frame, and now we're seeing that same trajectory from the Earth reference frame. It's much simpler, but we need to slow ourselves down so we can get to Earth. So let's do a retrograde shot against the direction of motion, and you can see that the new trajectory, if we hit the ball now, will be a fairly nice, oh, that was weird, fairly nice elliptical trajectory. So we can actually speed up time, and we can slow down time, of course. That's what the game's asking us to do here. And now we need to make the orbit circular. I'm aware that this tutorial takes up a lot of space on the screen. These are, yeah. I need to do something about this tutorial, but what it's basically telling us to do here is to get our apoapsis, the highest point of our orbit, we need to reduce that down so it's equal to the periapsis, the lowest point of the orbit. So to do that, we just make a retrograde shot. You can see if we hit the ball nothing, then it's going to be the same as what it is. If we just increase the power of that retrograde shot, the more power we hit into it, the lower the apoapsis becomes until they are roughly the same. So if I hit it there, that's, oh, because it says it needs to be less than 60 as well. So it's a little bit too high as well. Just pause the game again. That is good there. So we've lowered the periapsis, and now over here, pause there, we're going to lower the apoapsis. There we go. So now we have a circular orbit with a height of about 35,000 kilometers. So we're pretty close to the Earth, and now, just like before, we can land on the Earth. We'll just pause the game, do a retrograde shot, and land here. Now the Earth is currently modeled as just a circle. It doesn't have any water or anything, but moving too fast to actually go in the hole. So we need to just slow it down a little bit. You'll note that I'm not really caring about how many strokes I'm taking. I think that the player probably going through the tutorial for the first time shouldn't really matter if you've done 5 strokes or 12 strokes, but you can always go back and optimize how many strokes you're taking as well. And I do have a plan to make the Earth more realistic, have the water actually be a water hazard, and so on. But in any case, I'm going to skip ahead to a bit later in the game. So if you're playing this game, you'll get to have a bit more of a slow ramp on to understanding these mechanics. But I'm going to go right ahead to the mission where we get to go to Mars. Okay, so in this mission, we can zoom all the way out to see the inner solar system. We don't have the outer planets yet, but we have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, as well as a couple of moons. And we're going to use our orbital skills to get all the way to Mars, and we'll see some additional techniques come into play. So let's first get away from the Earth. So we'll use our normal approach here. We'll get up to some high apoapsis, and then we'll hit a shot with enough power to escape the Earth. So there's the Earth escape, and you can see kind of again, there's a bit of a nonsensical trajectory once we're past the Earth. That's actually going around the Sun. But let's hit the ball now and speed up time a little bit until we get to that Earth escape. Okay, so once we've escaped the Earth, you can see the trajectory changed. And again, that's the reference frame changing to show, well, what our trajectory actually is very close to the trajectory of Earth. You can see that little, that faint blue line there is Earth, and the thick blue line, or the strong blue line, is the ball. So it's very close to the Earth's trajectory. It's slightly off because of that hit that we did, but getting onto an escape trajectory out of Earth doesn't really change your trajectory relative to the Sun that much. It just means that you're no longer gravitationally bound by Earth. So if we were to unpause the game now, we could just sit here in a fairly comfortable solar orbit for as long as we want, but our mission here is to get to Mars. So what we're going to do here is, the first thing we want to do is get into a circular solar orbit. So it needs to be very, very circular, not having what do we have? At the moment, an apoapsis is 27 gigameters and our periapsis is 23 gigameters. So we want to get to, that apoapsis is in a good range. We want to get the periapsis up to the same as the apoapsis. So let's wait till we hit that apoapsis, pause. And now we want to do a prograde shot to increase our velocity to bring the periapsis up. That looks pretty good actually. You can see that if it doesn't show apoapsis and periapsis, it means that it's a circle basically. So let's hit the ball there. And now we're in a nice circular orbit, further out than Earth, but not quite up to Mars yet. And the reason what we want to do that is because we want to not be at the level of Mars, so that we can be in a different orbital period to Mars. So the ball is going to orbit faster than Mars, and that way, as we go around, we will be able to catch up to Mars. If we were at a very close orbit to Mars, like say that we got our ball here and we made it circular, then we'd never catch up to Mars. We'd just be going around and around each other. So by making ourselves have a faster orbit than Mars, we can just wait until eventually we catch up. But we want to be further out than the Earth and Mercury and Venus so that we don't collide with those other bodies. Okay. So now what we're going to do is use some of the game's advanced tools to plan our approach to Mars. So we'll just pause it for now. We're going to aim prograde and get our planned trajectory up to touching Mars. You can see the apoapsis on our planned trajectory is at the same distance as Mars. But we're not going to hit the ball yet, because if we do that, then the ball's going to end up over here and Mars is going to be somewhere else. What we want to do is we're going to hit this ball at some time in the future, and we're going to make it so that when we do, the point at which the ball comes up to touch the Mars orbit, this red circle, Mars will be there at the same time. To do that, we're going to use this alt planning mode. So I'll show what that does. I'll zoom out. If you hold alt and you move your mouse along either of the two ball trajectories, you can see all the planets. Can you see that there's this little sort of faint image of the planets underneath? So have a look at Mars. Mars is there in real life, but if we move our cursor along this trajectory, you can see the ghost image of Mars is moving around its orbit. And what that's doing is it's showing, so when the ball is here, you can see 221 days from now, Mars will be there. So we can see where Mars will be at any time in the future. So where's Mars going to be? If we hit the ball right now, where will Mars be when the ball gets up to this apoapsis? Well, it's going to be all the way over there. So we don't want that. We're going to be in the wrong place. So we can click to move the time that we're planning to hit the ball. So if we move it around here, let's see, where's Mars going to be when we come around? It's going to be all the way over there. So that's no good either. So let's just keep going. Maybe we go an entire revolution around. Where's Mars going to be? It's getting closer. So let's go around a whole revolution. Just speed up time and we'll wait and go around a whole revolution. Not time to hit yet. Okay, pause. And now let's go even further into the future. So we're basically using this tool to try and line up the ball in Mars. It's getting pretty close here. Let's go around another halfway. Oh wow, that was a good click. So you can see that the game's now telling us that if we were to hit the ball at that moment, 300 days in the future from now, this by the way is why when you plan a real life mission to Mars, you have certain timing windows you have to hit. You'll see that I actually had to wait. It's been 2 years since we launched from Earth. We could have spent some of that time waiting on the launch pad, but you can see here we've gotten very, very close. If we were to hit the ball at that moment, then the ball's going to come closer and closer to Mars until here we have a series of Mars events. We have an encounter with Mars, the periapsis, the closest point at which the ball will get to Mars, and then a Mars escape. So we've found the right moment that we want to hit the ball in order to get to Mars. Again, this is very complicated, but this is the 7th mission of the game. You will have a bunch of simpler tasks to do before you get up to this one, but I think this is an exciting mission to show because it's kind of what the game's all about. It's like planning these long orbital trajectories into the future very precisely using the tools. So let's unpause the game now, speed up time a little bit. We have to make sure we don't go past this or else we've got to do the whole thing again. You can see the ball's actually kind of coming close to Mars, but we won't be getting there for a while. I'll turn this off so we have a bit more visibility on the screen, and I'll pause the game when we get to the periapsis. You can see a countdown here, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Okay, we're right, sorry, not at the periapsis, but at that exact planned point. And now all we have to do, it's all lined up, we just have to hit the ball. There we go. So we didn't quite get it. You can see that now the actual trajectory that we have here does not have a Mars encounter, but that's all right because we can correct it up as we get closer to Mars. It'll be very close. You can see, I'll use that alt planning mode again. You can see that we're very close to Mars over there. So let's just let things happen. Getting very close. And when we get to this apoapsis, we're going to be so close to Mars that we may as well, I'll just slow it down here. So Mars is a little bit ahead of us now. So we just need to do a very, very small adjustment. And you can see we've got a Mars encounter. Yeah, let's try and get it in the middle of that. Hit it, get into the Mars encounter, and there our trajectory has now changed into the Mars reference frame. So we're close enough to Mars that we're gravitationally affected by it. And here we have the periapsis coming up. So we'll slow down time. When we get to the periapsis, the closest point, that's the most efficient way to do an adjustment. And now we're going to do a retrograde shot, just like we did with getting down to Earth, to slow down and basically get ourselves into a Mars orbit. So I can make some adjustments, but basically that looks like a pretty good circular orbit. So we'll do that first. We could probably save some strokes, but for now, we're in a circular orbit. So now we forget about the rest of the solar system. We're just trying to make a soft landing on Mars. So a couple more strokes here. Yes, okay. We're just gonna, we don't want to do an impact right away, because if we do that, we'll be coming in with such a great speed that we'll just bounce right off. A real spacecraft would just explode in the atmosphere. So we want to just get into a low orbit first. So we have a high apoapsis, a low periapsis. Whoa! And now we're going to do the same to adjust on this side. Again, I'm sure that you could optimize this and not take so many strokes, but we're just going to do what a normal spacecraft would do some small adjustments. So let's get ourselves into an impact now, and that time's going very fast, but we've landed on Mars and we need to slow down a little bit, so I'll do one more stroke and we're in the hole. And there you go, we've landed on Mars, and it only took 4 years and 146 days, and more importantly, 9 strokes. So I'm sure we could improve that, but I'll leave that up to you. So thanks so much for watching. That's a little preview of Celestial Golf. If you'd like to follow along the development, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel and wishlist the game on Steam. I'm planning to make this demo hopefully a little bit more advanced than what you've seen here, available on Steam in about a month. So look out for that. I'll certainly post an announcement, and I hope you have a great day. See you next time. Bye.